Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Float, Odyssey, Telegram, Twitch, TikTok, and the Prepper Broadcast Network. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I'm Toolman Tim, and today is November 26, 2022, and this is episode 210 of the Workshop Podcast. So today's episode is going to be one I recorded in late October with Kayla from Tactical Response. We'll dive into that into a minute. Real quick, let's get the announcements out of the way. Number one, I don't mention this very often, but I have an Instagram page. I'm coming up on 1,000 followers. It would be great if you guys would support me. If you are over on Instagram and you're like, oh, I didn't know the workshop was over there. Give me a like, give me a follow, whatever the hell we call it over there. Grab that link from the description below. Same goes for TikTok. I am quickly approaching 10,000 followers over on TikTok. If you like your content in bite-sized pieces, easy to digest, if you can't handle me too much, more than 60 seconds at a time, go by and give me a follow over on the TikTok. And finally, as I always say, Patch of the Month Club. If you guys are looking for a way to support what I do and help turn this into a full-time venture, and you like to get some cool, politically incorrect, rather humorous patches, then sign up for the Patch of the Month Club at patchofthemonth.co. $10 a month, $100 a year, value for value exchange. That's all I get to say about that. So from there, today's tool is something I use every single day, and that is the dewalt 4-port rapid charger. I love that thing. There's nothing better than combining all the loose myriad of chargers you have into one, where they charge faster than any of the single chargers, and they charge each battery at the same rate, whether you've got 1 or 4 batteries on there. Links in the description. If you want to check it out, grab it, go, and see from there. And from that, guys, I am excited to finally get this episode. I've been sitting on it for a while. Just so happened that I had enough content to put out, so I saved this one for a rainy day. I am gone for the weekend with my beautiful wife to the city for some Christmas shopping, as long as it doesn't snow. And so I hope you really enjoy this episode with Kayla from Tactical Response. It was a doozy of an interview. So with that, let's jump right in.
There we are.
Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. How are you? I have an extra special guest this week from a place that's slightly warmer than I am this morning. Kayla from Tactical Response. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh boy. Yeah, it's like I said, I woke up here this morning and way below zero, minus 10 Celsius, which is 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are, it's quite something up here already.
We had our first cold week last week, and we got to light our fireplace at the house once. Like one time. It was the first time because we just recently bought the house. So the kids were super excited. It's a wood-burning fireplace in the living room. My husband went out. Me and him got, I was holding the wood as he was chopping it. We put it in there. And he went the next day and bought the little color changing things to make the fire different colors.
That's
and
cute.
Then it was too hot to do it. So.
That it'll get there. Not that we want it to, but
I will take cold over heat any day. You can always add layers. You can only take so many off
before it gets illegal,
right.
or at least indecent in some cases. So how things been down there? I know, with Tactical, you guys been busy?
We have been extremely busy. So after my dad passed, my sister and I and my brother-in-law all took over. It's taken 3 of us to do the job of one man, and we're still not doing it as effectively as he was. He left some really big shoes to fill, but we are all focused on keeping this thing going. And the signups have stayed steady, and we've been doing big pushes on social media and had a ton of students in. We just finished up our HRCC sniper class.
Ooh,
and had that put out some videos and pictures on our Instagram, but we are moving forward.
So can we go back a bit, and can you kind of share, because for me, I hate to say this, I didn't really know who James was until about a year ago, which is cool because his legacy is living. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to, you know what I mean, but it's just incredible. So can you kind of share where Tactical came from and how your dad and you built it, and everybody, you know, all along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So he was a police officer, got his first policing job in Big Sandy, Tennessee, and he would teach carry permit classes on the weekends to get money to go take more training so that he would be better at his job.
Okay.
So he used all of the money from the carry permit classes to get his own training, and it kind of went from there. So Tactical Response was founded in 1996. Originally, we were partnered with Andy Stanford,
Okay.
Ops,
Yep.
and he told my dad, he was like, "You need to do your own thing. Like you're you know enough. Like you should do your own thing." So Tactical Response in 1996 started, and we have been teaching ever since. When we first started out, we had a lot of pistol classes. It used to be tactical pistol, and now it is fighting pistol, because we, like, as the culture shifted around firearms, we wanted people to know that there was a difference. Like the tactical stuff doesn't always work. Like we want
Yeah.
to teach you how to fight with your guns. So that's when we incorporated the fighting classes, the fighting pistol, fighting rifle. We did the advanced. And then in 2004, 2005, he went to Iraq as a security contractor and lost a friend over there in an ambush. So when he got back, we also developed a medical curriculum. He got with doctors and trauma surgeons and all these people to put together like what you should know. And that's my baby now.
Okay. That's cool.
The medical stuff is my baby now, but we were one of the first people in this industry to start teaching medical classes alongside the firearm stuff. So, and as we built more, it turned into this entire lifestyle thing. Like everything that you do should be focused around living an honorable and good life. And Jordan Peterson says, like, you have to, like, not being violent is not a good thing. Like you have to be capable and make the choice
Right.
to withhold that. And that's kind of how we took, like, a fellow Canadian.
Absolutely. I love, yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
So we center our entire lives around living a life that is good and honorable, but also being capable of protecting ourselves and those around us, because it's very important.
There's so much there I want to touch on. Can we slow? I had one question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but so because when I started about a year ago, I asked some of my friends in the Tennessee area. I said, as a Canadian who's completely, I mean, I like to shoot. I love guns, but we're limited in what our options are. I said, where should I go to take what I thought was to become a better shooter? Anyway, we'll get to that too, of course. So everybody, you need to go and see James at Tactical Response. And so I did my due diligence and started reading and learning about you guys and stuff. And I assumed, oh, James must be ex-military. And then it turned out he was ex-police, which is cool. But how did he end up going to Iraq as a security contractor? From going from being like kind of a local police guy to going to Iraq as a security contractor. And you don't have to get into specifics. I'm just curious how that happened.
That's fun. It was from networking.
Okay.
Like all of the training classes that he had taken and all of the classes that we were teaching, because we had a fighting rifle at that time. So someone reached out to him through email and was like, hey, this gig is coming up. Is it something you'd be interested in? So he started the process, and my dad was built to be a warrior.
Sure.
Like that's he was born in the wrong time. Like
right.
Any other time in history, like he would have fit right in. And now I take that back. He was born at the perfect time, because
sure. Yeah, you're right.
The world needs men like that, and he didn't mind being loud about it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So, okay, when you go and you take a course, of course, everybody's like, oh, the hands-on stuff is the best, right? And it is, but the second day of fighting pistol,
the lecture.
Oh my God. See, I didn't even know the dude, and I'm still, So I went to Self-Reliance Festival immediately after this, right? and everybody says to me, what did you think? And I couldn't put it into words. That's why I had to get somebody else to come on here to talk through it. But I said, life changing, that term is thrown around a lot but it doesn't mean anything. But I said, I think it was like 1% life changing. And it comes down a lot to that lecture about the warrior mindset, because every time I have an ex-service person on the show, and I like to use Greg. He runs Apocalypse Preparedness School in Edmonton.
Mhm.
Now he's the guy that he went to Bosnia and Afghanistan, and he went into minefields, and he didn't bother him. He would dig up, anyway. And I asked him, how do you do that? Like I feel like I would be absolutely just frozen, right?
Mhm.
And he said, I just did it. But then he'd mention, like, sometimes public speaking would make him nervous. And so I would always ask people, like, how can I develop that in myself, right? Or at least even a little piece, because I'm a handyman. I live in Canada. And everybody said, well, practice and expose yourself to things. Well, I found it at Tactical Response, at least a little bit. That the first time getting exposed to, I don't want to say real stress, but kind of stressful situations. And that's obviously intentional, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very intentional.
So what is the warrior mindset to you? That's a huge thing for me. And I don't even know if I can put it into words, but what does that mean to you?
So the warrior mindset to me, and what it meant to my dad, was living that honorable life, like doing every single thing you could to avoid ever having to put any of those skills to use, but still being a master of all of those skills.
Sure. Yeah, that makes total. Yeah.
Because in the especially in this community, not necessarily the culture, but the community, you hear people talking about like the tyrannical government and fighting back and things like that, and everybody is so quick to say, like, we need to go ahead and, like, it's the guns, like, but the term the pen is mightier than the sword carries very heavy weight. So I think that what separates people that have the warrior mindset and people who just do this for a good time is to live a life that completely avoids ever having to use this until it's necessary. Knowing when it's necessary is the tricky part.
The restraint, hey?
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah, I remember. I don't even remember exactly what the part of the lecture was, but it was in there. It was like, knowing that you could fight, knowing you could win the fight, but walking away from the fight was part of the warrior mindset in some instances. But when time comes and you need to pull the trigger, pull it without any hesitation.
Yeah.
Because
you have to be a master of your field, because when the time comes, like, you can't settle for mediocre. Like, everybody talks about the hostage shot, like the worst nightmare of anybody, with your loved one being held right here, and like you get to see like this much of the person and like this.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, like, that's the shot that you have to train for, like the most difficult one to make, because that's the shot that might one day matter. So becoming a master of those things, and then living your life in such a way that you show restraint, and the golden rule: you don't go stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things. Like, avoid that. Like, I started carrying a gun daily when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
At university, like every single day.
That's cool.
What I didn't do was go to college parties. Like, when I wanted to go to parties, I come back to my parents' house and hung out in the team room.
That's cool.
I didn't run around with the wrong crowd. Like, I avoided anything that would bring attention to me having a firearm.
Sure.
But it didn't matter where I was. Like, I'm still worth protecting. So it's one of those things, you have to incorporate the choice. You have to be diligent and deliberate in your choices every single day about being a good person and living a good life.
In concealed carry, or carry in general, it kind of sounds like it brings a higher level of both understanding and needing to be careful.
Yeah,
Accountability.
responsibility. It's a
Yes.
huge responsibility. And you mentioned the lecture, and that's what we go over in the lecture is like, when you have a gun, you have to be held to a higher standard. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard, because that comes with such responsibility that like you have to take extreme ownership of it. Like self-defense goes out the window if you did something to provoke the altercation.
Right. And even if you're legally in the right, but you know damn well deep inside that you put yourself in that situation, you got to live with that the rest of your life. You know,
There are cases here in the United States, specifically road rage incidents, where it should have just been a fist fight, but the other person turned it into a gunfight, and the person who fought back with a gun still went to prison because they didn't have to pull over. They didn't have to flip the bird. They didn't have to get into that altercation. They could have avoided the situation entirely. And like coming back to that mindset, you have to be the bigger person all the time. Like that's what it boils down to.
I don't know. I don't hear that that mindset or that philosophy in a lot of places, or necessarily from maybe some of the YouTube gun guys. You know what I mean? I'm not slamming on anybody. It was just something that hadn't really been thrown at me before. What do you think?
I think that is what separates a warrior from a professional. Like you can do this professionally. You can be competent. You can have everything else going for you and be really good at it. Like this can be your job. But to take it to heart and to focus, because mindset is everything for us. Like that is our entire foundation. There's not a class that you'll take here at Tactical Response that doesn't incorporate mindset into that. And grasping that and living that is that's the line. Like that's what takes you from professional to warrior.
So when I came down, of course, I assumed I was going to go to a place and learn how to shoot better. Well, I was about as wrong as I possibly could be. How do you guys separate yourself? And I mean, I think I know the answer to this one, but when a person comes in, what is it you guys do different? Because you don't really teach you how to shoot, do you? I was reading through your FAQ and it talked about guns being the modern or the only American martial art, and you guys call it fighting pistol and fighting rifle. So how is that different from coming down and learning how to shoot?
We only have 4 firearm safety rules. And when you treat someone like an adult that knows what they're doing, it instills a sense of confidence anyways. So we focus on making sure that you are following those rules because they're omnipresent. Like even in a gunfight, those 4 rules exist. So if you look at them, never let your muzzle cross anything you're not willing to destroy. If somebody's shooting at you and you need to shoot them back, you are intentionally letting your muzzle cross you. So you're not breaking a rule.
Right.
Same thing with trigger. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target and you have made the decision to shoot.
Right.
So once you've made that decision, it's okay to touch the trigger. So we treat you like an adult with your gun, and then we are getting you to a survival level of proficiency. And it's not very hard. Like anyone can go out there and get to a survival level of proficiency as long as they are not overwhelmed or think that it's outside of their league. And by treating them like an adult, it's not outside of their league. And we only work on one fix at a time. So if you're like holding the gun and you not holding the gun tight enough is what's causing your issues, and you're not hitting the target, we're going to focus on let's hold the gun right. Like let's hit the target. So we start out like big picture. And then when you listen to all the things we have you do, because the very first thing on our gear list is an open mind.
Yes, I want to talk about that. So when you
listen to all of those things that we tell you to do, it goes whoom.
Right.
And gets you to that survival level of proficiency.
I love, so in kind of handyman kind of things, I love the simplest solution always.
Mm-hmm.
And so even something stupid or simple, like if I'm hauling a whole bunch of gravel with a wheelbarrow, I'm going to figure out the shortest and most efficient route, because if I have to do that 1,000 times, it's going to be easier, and I'm going to remember, and all of that. I love, for what little bit I know about it, the system you guys have developed, the tap rack.
Mm-hmm.
Because it solves everything, or almost unless
Unless you need to reload.
Exactly, right? Tap
So
rack,
it's either
reload.
tap rack or reload.
Yeah. And how long did it take to kind of distill it down to just those absolute simplest points?
My dad was kind of a genius with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things made sense for him before they made sense for other people. Like, he could be watching the same video and get what they wanted him to get out of it without having to go back and watch it a second time.
Okay.
So, like, his intentions from the jump were, one of the things you don't get anything extra of is time.
Right.
So let's take the things in a gunfight that might mess us up and take the short amount of time as possible to fix it. So that was his focus from the start, was prevailing in a gunfight.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's kind of it. Like, I started taking my first class that I took. I was 8 or 9 years old, and it was a force on force class.
Okay.
I'd been shooting since I was 3, but as far back as I can remember, I was born in 89. So whatever that eight is, like 96, 97 was my very first class. It was still like a tap rack. Like it was.
So it's been there.
Yeah. Let's get this to the shortest thing possible. And the other thing that he did was he was not afraid to hire people or bring in people who were smarter than him. So he wouldn't put his name on any technique, because he said then you get emotionally attached to that technique. And he wanted to always be able to keep that logical thought process. And as soon as he would find something better, he was like, oh, this works better. Okay, then this works better. And 26 years into this, I think we've kind of reached the height of improvement as far as modern day firearms go, because there haven't been that many changes since the semi-automatic gun come out.
Sure. And you look at whatever the industry or whatever the company is, and they have their mission statement. Oh, you need to have an open mind, and we're open. I want to hire smarter people, and all of what you just said. But it's legitimately true with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You read, I went through the instructors' bios, and one thing they said about your dad was he was as much of a learner and a student as he was a teacher. And the guys that you read the bios of your instructors, and they're incredible bios. Like, how confident do you have to be to hire people that are just so much, you have to believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And because the open mind thing, of course, that you guys send out an equipment list and you read it and it's like open mind. And I don't want to say you roll your eyes, but you're like, oh yeah, okay, you got to, but no, it's real.
It's required here.
It's like, oh yeah, okay. They're just saying no, like it. So if somebody's, because me coming as a Canadian to tactical response, to be honest, I was maybe ever so slightly, I don't want to say terrified, but just nervous, because I had I figured, all right, I'm going to be in with a bunch of, mall ninjas or tactical people or guys that have, or maybe, independent contractors that have done this for years. I figured I'd be way in over my head. So I coming down ahead of time, I had about a half a day. I stopped in just to get the lay of the land to see where it was, which was helpful. But can somebody who has no experience at all come and take, well, first, which course should they take? And can somebody with almost no experience come and start?
They should start with fighting pistol.
Okay.
And absolutely, those are our best students.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because if it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of history with guns, then they don't come in with the complex thinking that they already know that, and they're just looking for this little thing you can give them.
Yes.
So they are the absolute best students. And we have had people in fighting pistol where they fired the first round they had fired in their entire life in that class.
Wow. And they did, I mean, yeah, because you're just, something I've had to get over as I turned 40 for whatever reason a couple of years ago was it's okay to suck at something. The only way to get good at something is to be uncomfortable and to suck at it. And the more you embrace that, the faster you learn things.
Yep.
And that, but it still doesn't make it easy sometimes because
nobody likes getting pushed outside of their comfort zone. Like people typically don't do things that they are bad at.
Right.
And that's where the open mind comes in, is you have to be willing to just take instruction and listen to what we say. At the end of the class, feel free to not continue to do things like that, but try it our way and see if it works for you. And like talking to my dad, I told him, and it was right before we just recently had a news interview done on us, like Fox 13 from Memphis.
I think they were showing up as I was leaving.
They put on a segment for Tactical Response, and they had actually reached out in August about that. And my dad was like, that's you. So I was talking to him, and I told him, I was just like, I believe in all my heart that we are the best firearms training company in the world. And he said, you have to. Like, if you don't believe that, there's no point in doing this.
Sure.
And so everyone that works here believes that. So if you come in with an open mind, you're getting our hearts and souls poured into you. Like, it's something that we fiercely believe in. And when you make room for something that great to be nourished, then and that's how I feel like we're so successful, is because people take the open mind seriously. Like, most of our students, of course you have that guy every now and then, been shooting with his pappy since he was like knee high to a grasshopper and already knows all this stuff. And like, you've got those guys occasionally, but the vast majority of our students, they see it. And what separates Tactical Response from a lot of other training companies is that every single person here that works with us is required to walk that walk. Like, you can't just be lip service. Right. You have to do the things. Like, I can't tell people to carry a med bag on them every day if I don't carry a med bag on me every day. I can't tell people carry your gun even when it's not necessarily legal, when you're not allowed to. I can't say, but you're still able to, and you still should.
Allowed and able,
unless I do that myself.
Right.
So we put our like reputations and livelihoods where our mouth is. So the money where the mouth is thing, like, we do that. This is the lifestyle that everyone here lives. And when people see that you sincerely believe in that, they're willing to come in with that open mind and make the space for all of that stuff to be nourished and to grow.
And that culture of an open mind, I think if somebody did show up that didn't have that, I don't think they'd want to stick around very long, because the instructor,
leave themselves out.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because you have a thing on there about your instructors being politically incorrect, and if you're a snowflake or your feelings are hurt easily, it might not, it isn't the training for you.
Right.
But 99.99% of the people who come love it. And I see, but I'll bet you that your instructors are pretty damn good at weeding out people who don't want to learn. And it doesn't happen very often.
There's a joke that there's always that guy in class, and if it's not, like, if you don't know who it is, it's you. So it's there may be one person every 2 or 3 classes now.
Okay, that's good. And I mean, that's just the nature of it,
Well, it all goes back to the Heraclitus quote, like, that out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. And it rings true for us as well in our student base.
Absolutely. So
And that's okay. Like, we're not for everybody. We get that. We are for people who like want to do this thing as a lifestyle, not as a good time.
and when somebody finishes with you, at least I know Tim, my instructor, he's like, hey, if you want to take more training, we have more training, but here are some other places
Mm-hmm.
that aren't tactical response that I don't make any money from affiliate links or anything that are really good. You should try them too. That I love that. Collaboration to me is key. And because if you're running down your competition all the time, there's a reason you're running down your competition, because you're insecure, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're, and there is a time to point out deficiencies if you think it needs to be pointed out. But for the most part, it seems like you guys are more interested in bolstering up other teams and other trainers.
Well, as cliche as it sounds, like you shouldn't have to dim somebody else's light for yours to shine bright enough.
Mm,
Like we are all about extreme ownership and personal responsibility. Like if you want to be the best, then be the best. Like don't try to make other people out to be worse so that you seem better. Be better.
right. Prove it and live it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I got an email today. I had a guy on a while ago that was an expert on something, really, really good at it. And somebody sent me a follow-up. There was a response video to this guy, and he was an expert, and I appreciated his stuff. But this was a response from another company, basically tearing everything apart that he does. And I'm like, it just doesn't sit right with me. I'd prefer, if you don't agree with the person, just ignore them and live your life. Because if you're tearing somebody down all the time, I don't know, either you're insecure or you're not as good as you damn well think you are.
So one of the things that my dad would do if he did not think that someone was a good trainer, or if he didn't think that they would be good for somebody,
Sure.
like instead of saying like don't train with that person because he's a shithead or whatever, he would say, what would you like to learn from them? And then if you said, oh, I'd like to learn how to get really good at doing this, why don't you go train with this person instead? That's their niche.
Yeah.
So instead of putting somebody down, he would just lift somebody else up and send people their way. And I think that is a very honorable thing to do.
I agree. I do. So when somebody comes and they're brand new, like I was, for instance, what can people do to set themselves up for success before you show up? And what you sent me was perfect, and I followed everything. But I'll get you to explain it. You're just glitching right quick here.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good now. There we go. Perfect. Go ahead. Yep.
So we send out a pre-class email, and then it's also on our website. So if you follow our instructions, we don't have things in there unnecessarily. Like if you do everything we tell you to do, you're going to show up and have a good time, and you're coming into the right environment. And it's like if you were going to go take a college class, do the summer reading list.
Right.
Like that's our equivalent of a summer reading list, is to do those things, watch the videos that are out there, and to make sure that you're coming in with that open mind. Like that's how you're going to get there. We keep our phones on. Like this is a small business. Right now, like my sister, myself, and Shelton are the only ones in the office today. We've got guys out teaching classes. My brother-in-law, Joey, is off taking another instructor class. So it's the three of us, but we still try to answer the phone anytime anybody calls, answer our emails. We check them every day. So if you've got something that you're concerned about, give us a call. Like part of our responsibility as the person that you're trusting to teach you something new is to be accessible to you so that we can answer your questions and put you at ease.
And it's true. I mean, I don't know how many times I emailed back and forth with your sister with just trivial little things, because I was flying, or I drove in, but obviously I couldn't bring anything with me. So I had to make arrangements. So I got a loaner gun from you guys, and I had ammo shipped from the place that you guys recommend. I can't remember, Ammo Supply or Ammo
Ammo
Where.
Supply Warehouse.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay?
Yep. Yeah. So I had it all, and you guys, answered every question. There was never, and you always got back to me. And
Mhm.
even the day that I showed up and there was nobody at the office, I just called and you're like, oh yeah, there is. He was, I can't remember the guy's name. He said he was in the back, and he come out and met me just so I could kind of see where I was coming from.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Like, one of the things, and it surprises people sometimes, because if you knew my dad, or especially if you'd only seen him online, like, a lot of people would talk about him being cocky and arrogant. And granted, like, occasionally, yeah, like, I
sure.
love him, but yeah. But he always made sure at the end of every day to be humble. And especially being a female, like me and my sister are both females, it's even more nerve-wracking to go to a new training class, because you never know what you're getting yourself into with these things. Like, you don't.
Yeah, I get it.
So and one of the things my dad says, like, you always have to remember what it's like to be a student. And the best way to do that is to keep being a student. So anytime somebody calls and has questions, it's one of those things, like, we just like do a quick reset in our brains, like, hey, I would have probably had those questions. So we don't get annoyed at
Right.
it. We take that responsibility very seriously, because I don't want to be the reason that someone gets turned off to this. What we teach people literally saves lives.
Sure.
We've had over 60 students in gunfights. The only one that lost didn't have their gun with them. Every single student that had their firearm with them, and it was a gunfight, not a shooting, prevailed.
Right.
We've had hundreds of students use what we taught them in our medical classes to save lives. Hundreds. So that's a responsibility that we take very seriously, to make sure that people feel comfortable coming and taking our classes, because I don't want to be the reason that person doesn't show up.
Sure.
And so we're very open to questions, and we try to be warm and welcoming, and it doesn't hurt that we're Southerners, so hospitality's in the blood.
Ain't that the truth? So what about, you talked about being a woman? I mean, what if you're a lady, whether you're married or single, and you've never done any of this before? What are the differences? I'm going to say, what are the differences? Like, what does a woman? Because they can come and take it too. I had two or three
Absolutely.
girls in the class. So how do they get into it, and what's different for them, or how? Maybe there's nothing really different, but
So most of the time when we have a woman who isn't with a spouse, brother, husband, like, that wasn't brought here by a man, it's because something's already happened.
okay,
So they come in and take the classes very seriously. But something that my sister and I and Brickell, American Gun Chick, we were talking, and there is, like, the women are the largest population in the firearms industry that's growing right now.
okay,
Like, it's the fastest growing industry or market of the industry. And so what we have decided to do is put together, it's called Magnums and Mascara.
I didn't even know about this. This is
Yeah,
great.
so
This
it's
is
a
awesome.
Magnums and Mascara class,
Okay,
and it is the purpose of the class is to get women comfortable with training in general. So we're going to go over, like, how to get you on target, because confidence is key with any, especially for a woman. When you're walking into something that is a predominantly male industry, you don't want to go in looking like you don't know what you're doing.
sure.
And so we're going to get you, like, we're going to be teaching you how to shoot. We're going to be teaching you how to draw, like how to grip, how to do all these other things. But the entire purpose is to build your confidence in yourself, that you're good enough to go and take these classes, and that you're worth it to go and take those classes.
That's cool. So a female course by females for
By
females.
females. The only time that there's going to be a male even in the thing, it isn't during the class itself. It's day 2, because we have a friend of ours who is bringing some guns that he has to stay with legally.
Sure. Oh, we're gonna have some
Yeah.
fun. Yes.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun on day 2. Just to make it fun, because a lot of these people will be new shooters, and when you're just starting out, the most important thing to do for a new shooter, like if you want to get them interested, is to keep it fun.
Absolutely.
And you can answer the question, was fighting pistol fun for you?
Yeah, it was. Fighting rifle was fun too, but I mean, things that I've never done in my life. Oh my God. I was like a little kid at Christmas. Yes.
And that's something that we want to incorporate into this. And it was something my dad come up and talked to me and Heather specifically about, was to, he was like, you can never do an all ladies fighting pistol, because fighting pistol is a class where you are learning how to fight for your life. And if you're not comfortable with a male teacher, how can we leave feeling good knowing that your attacker might be, statistically, is going to be a male?
Absolutely. Sure.
So never do a girls only fighting pistol, but you two should put something together that is specifically for females to get them comfortable enough to go do something like that. And that's what we're doing.
Because you said a lot of times, if an unattached lady's coming, somebody who came on their own volition without a husband, they've had
something's already happened.
Right. So, I mean, love everybody at Tactical Response, but again, you said everything's politically incorrect there. So if you came as a lady all by herself who had an issue in the past, that might be a bit off-putting just to get started. If you're already feeling insecure about not being able to learn anything, or you don't know it, so I think that's awesome. That's going to get people in the door.
And my recommendation to the ladies who have had something happen, and that's why they're showing up, is if you let us know about it, we do, like, while we might not be politically correct, we're not dicks for the sake of being a dick.
Yes.
So we will try to make sure that we're not causing you any unnecessary stress. Like, the class alone it's intended to be stressful, but
only certain types of stress.
Right. There's a point, and it's something that we have to consider with weather, like how long our classes are, all of it. Like, when this thing gets up too high, the learning does this. So if you let us know, like, hey, I was recently attacked and it bothers me to be, like, for my back to be touched and I don't know, let us know, and we'll make sure to avoid that so that you can focus on learning what you came there to learn.
Absolutely. That's cool. And you guys have had people in wheelchairs there before? How does that work? How do you
literally he just does his draw to where he's not flagging his legs, and he comes forward now. He's a multi-alumnus, like he's taken more than one class. Cool. And the thing that was always super important, like when people would ask the question, like, well, I've got this disability, will you still train me? My dad was like, yeah, you need the training more than the average person does.
Right. So
we will find a way to make it work for you. We've had deaf people come through. We've had visually impaired people come through. Because again, we're looking for that survival level of proficiency, and we make any accommodation and modification that we can to make sure that you are getting what you need out of the class. So that for the wheelchair guy, he had to reholster his gun a lot more frequently because he needed both of his hands to move. Whenever he was doing the shooting on the move, like, it was a lot of this, like, it was slower, but using one hand and going under to make sure that his wheelchair went back.
Sure.
And his entire focus would be different. Like, he has to be extra vigilant to avoid going places where that might happen. Like, I took a female self-defense class. It was specifically geared towards women. And at first I was just like, so we're just learning how to run away? Like, that's what we're doing? And it's like, yeah, because, like, if me and you were to get into a fist fight, I'm not coming out winning that fist fight.
No, it's just the nature.
There are differences, biological differences that do change how you have to respond to something. So if I know that, like, 90% of my chance is to get away and run, I should put 90% of my efforts there, right?
Right. And that was what and that goes right back to your guys' philosophy was, again, I thought it was coming down to learn how to shoot. I left and realized I learned how to survive a fight and to win a fight and to decisively win the fight. And that's a totally different thing. And so when I first started looking, and I knew I had 4 days or 5 days. And so everybody said, well, of course you start with fighting pistol, right? That's where everybody, and then, so you had fighting pistol and fighting rifle back to back. So I said, okay, well, this is great, because I'd never fired an AK in my life, never fired an AR in my life. And I had a lot of fun. Let's put it that way. That was, I think the second day of fighting rifle was one of the coolest things I've ever done. That was really cool. So where do people go? Like, is that kind of the traditional way? I mean, on your website, you always say start with fighting pistol, but where can you go from fighting pistol?
So we have fighting pistol, and my dad would tell people, like, we have the round count to trick you into coming to listen to the lecture.
I didn't want to bring that up. I wanted to ask you if you.
No, that's
okay, cool. Because
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Fighting pistol is a mindset class. The shooting is just the hook.
Yeah, sure it is.
We want you to do the shooting stuff. It's fun. You need to know that stuff too. But the lecture is where it's at.
Absolutely it is.
And then expanding from that, the 3 most important classes that I think that Tactical Response offers are fighting pistol. I told you we had over 60 students say that they won because of that class. Immediate action medical, literally hundreds of calls telling us that what they learned in that class saved somebody. Like, we had a student take immediate action medical on his way home. He saw a car accident. A kid had his arm amputated. He put a tourniquet on and saved the kid's life on his way home. Before that class, he wouldn't have known how to do that.
Right.
And then the fight, which is our force on force class. And it is simulated gunfights. And what a lot of people don't know about the force on force class, like me and my dad had this conversation back in World War II, there was a certain number of dogfights, like fighter planes, fighter jets.
Yep.
A certain number that once you got to that number, and I can't remember now if it was 14 or another guy told me 10, but I think my dad said 14. Once you hit 14, you never lost again.
No shit.
Like, ever.
Really?
So we try to take you through a certain number of gunfights, and we always hit 14 at least. We try to take you through so that you can never lose again.
So, okay, on my first day, because I'm the type of guy who's always looking, what can I do next, right? Because that's just how I am.
Right.
So I asked everybody, I'm like, well, okay, when I'm done fighting pistol and fighting rifle, what should I take? Everybody said your first aid course and the fight course, the force on force course. And of course, me, before I knew it, I was thinking, well, I don't want to go all the way from Canada to take a first aid course when I could, well,
see,
no.
Your verbiage there is, it's not first aid. It is a trauma medicine.
Right. And that's where I was wrong. Because of course I thought I knew, not that I thought I knew everything, but I'm a guy and I figured, and so, but then by the end of it, I was all excited. I'm like, yeah, I'm coming down to take that. And the fight, is it called the fight or force on force?
Yeah, it's the fight.
One, that's okay. That's the one I'm also very excited to take, because I have my suspicions that it very much gets you into those stressful and warrior mindset kind of scenarios, at least the best you can without being in a real world situation.
We've actually kind of had to take on the role of therapist for those classes specifically because they are so emotionally intense. Like, you don't come to that class and leave with an intact ego. You don't. And it goes back to one of those things, like, you have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And the reason that people are uncomfortable is because they're risking their ego.
Right. And
that class, like, you got to check it at the door. You have to check it at the door. Typically women do better in that class because I joke about guts, like your gut tells you stuff. I'm like, I'm a mom, a nurse, and a woman. Like, I have the holy trinity of guts right here. Like, if I feel like something's off, it's off. So listen to that. Ladies, talking to you, listen to your guts. And dudes, they have more invested in not leaving the situation because for them, leaving is more embarrassing than something bad happening. Whereas women were like, oh, nobody expects me to stay here and fight. I'm out. So
The
that,
ego maybe doesn't get in the way as much.
yeah, the women's egos don't get in the way near as frequently.
That's cool. And are those two courses offered back to back sometimes, or?
We actually have the trifecta. So it's fighting pistol, immediate action medical, and the fight all back to back.
Oh, okay. And that's how many days is that?
6 days of training.
Okay. How often do you offer that?
A few times a year.
Okay. Because I'm going to be down in Nashville or Tennessee in April. So I'm thinking my wife won't be coming down until right in time for the event we're going to, but I'm thinking I'm going to come down for a week ahead of time, and whatever you have offered, I'll probably just take.
Okay.
Because we're looking for land in Tennessee as well. So that's
beautiful here.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Especially this time of year, like all of the trees changing colors. And we have very hilly landscapes. Like we're in West Tennessee, so we don't have the mountains, but we still have a lot of hills and just beautiful scenery. Lots of lakes and waterways, things like that around here. It's gorgeous.
Driving out the road to the gun range is it's gorgeous. I love that. You know, you guys, you talk about alumni being family once you've completed. What does that mean?
So I don't even like to use the word family because it's not intense enough. We call it our tribe.
Okay.
And the connotation that comes with that word is like you are a group of people who, like if you look at other tribes, like a group of people who all live the same kind of life, like all have a common goal and will help each other.
Sure.
And what that means for us is like, after my dad passed, like he was the electrician, all that stuff at the house. Like my mom had some issues with her doorbell camera.
Okay.
And ADT had come in and they did some things that needed to be fixed. And they were like, hire an electrician, we'll reimburse you for it. I put a post on our Tactical Response alumni Facebook page, and within 2 hours, somebody was at her house.
Isn't that incredible?
And you might think, oh, that's because it's like James Yeager's wife. Like there are hundreds of stories like that. We have had people call on the road, on the side of the road at 2 a.m. like, hey, like AAA isn't, like they're still not here. Like what needs to happen? And us go get them. Like when I was 18, somebody, a student called and was like, hey, my car just broke down at exit 152 on I-40. And my dad called me and he was like, hey, their car just broke down. Do you care if we let them use your car for the week? And I was like, no. Got in my car, drove, and they took my car for the week.
Isn't that crazy?
And it is something like every single person here holds ourselves accountable for the way that we act and we treat people, but we also hold each other accountable.
Okay.
So it makes me a better person by getting to be a part of this thing that we have, this tribe. And a lot of people feel the same way. It is having people that will call you out when you need called out, but they're only doing it to make you better.
Right. That the ego gets checked at the door, like you said, constantly. And that, I don't know. Maybe it's a young man thing, but that is a hell of a struggle when you're in your 20s and 30s. But when you can realize that you can, you know, the ego doesn't need to be there, that's freeing. And that's when you can become the real person you want to be, you know, or do great things. Right. And some people are lucky and figure that out right out of, you know, high school or college, and other people, it takes a while. But,
and like personally, I've had the experience where I've had a flight canceled.
Okay.
And it was me and my infant son, he was like 3 or 4 months old at the time. And my husband was in the military, so he had dropped us off and he couldn't come back and get us. And we had another alumnus come and pick me up, my kid up, get a car seat for us.
Oh.
And take us to his house because I wasn't flying with a car seat. My parents had one here waiting on me. So like he did all of these things to make it to where he would just take me back to the airport the next morning. And I got on the plane the next day and I got got to my parents' house in time to spend some time with them. And like, again, you think that it's just because, like, oh no, that's Jaeger's daughter, but so many other people have told me those stories. And I think that it all started because everybody wanted to do something good for somebody else.
Yes.
Like good karma points.
Return the favor, or
right.
Pass it on, or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
And my parents, my mom and dad, like, they didn't come from very much. I talked about it in another video. They both grew up extremely poor, to the point where they did not always know where their next meal was going to come from. And that's why we do the school drive. That's why we do the Toys for Tots. Like, my mom, when she was little, she had a Christmas where they did not have anything. Like, they were going to have potatoes for Christmas dinner, and nobody was getting a single gift. And people in their community started knocking, and it's her favorite Christmas to this day. People started knocking, and the first few knocks were food getting delivered. And then as the knocks continued, it turned over to toys and things for the kids. And they feel like they were so blessed with that, because my dad had instances like that too. They both feel like they were so blessed with those things that as soon as you are able, you have to do that for other people.
Yes.
You have to.
Yep.
Like, that is what charity is you making the decision to do that for somebody else. And what makes it so beautiful is that, like, even when my parents didn't have the stuff or the money to help people, my dad and mom always made sure they had the time.
Right.
Like, when we had a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in Big Sandy with 4 of us living there and 2 dogs, we still opened up the living room for people to stay when they couldn't afford a hotel room.
And this is no bullshit, guys. Like, you guys put your money where your mouth is. You have a team room, which is the basement of your mom and dad's house, right?
It's a fully finished basement. It's not as creepy as it sounds.
I ended up booking a hotel, but I kind of regretted it afterwards. I was like, oh. Yeah. And then, but also, once you've taken a course, if you come back and retake some of the courses, you offer a big cut in price for people who have taken it. It's part of the part of the tribe. Hey,
a lot of our 2-day classes, you can come back and take in Camden for half price.
That's crazy. So, you know, for people who knew what the struggle was and didn't have any money, and to implement things that cost them that much out of pocket, it's putting your money where your mouth is.
We also have a layaway program.
Right. Yes. How does that work?
You can go on our website and it's in $25 increments. You can put money on it. And at a certain point, like, we'll let you know when you get to the spot where you want it. If you tell us, like, this was my goal, other people just want to have it. So, like, well, I can come up with like $100 if a class comes up, but I can't come up with $600 if a class comes up. So it's money that we, like, you've paid in, and we keep a list, have a document that keeps up with everybody. And then on Shopify, that's the site that we use for our stuff. Like, we have the back end where we can go and double check that information, and you can apply it to any class that you want.
Cool. And I wanted to touch a little bit. You still got a couple of minutes? You okay? Okay. You guys do quite a bit with social media, hey? And you're the social media guru, right?
I'm the one left in charge of it now.
Sure, yeah.
I still had to go. Like, I laughed because I am a 33-year-old millennial who still had to go to her dad for tech advice.
Okay. I love you. I love millennials. My 3 oldest kids are millennials. But there is, and I don't know if it's because everybody grew up on cell phones, but the tech end of things seem to miss the millennials. Us Gen Xers, we grew up with PCs and things. We could tear things apart. We had those little skills, but we failed the millennials in that, I think. So that's okay.
That's like, they've actually separated the millennials into 2 different generations, or 2 sections now. Because if you, like, I was born in 89.
Okay.
I was a latchkey kid.
Okay, you were.
I didn't have a cell phone until I was older.
Right.
And when I did, it was a little Nokia that you could play Snake on.
Yeah. Oh, I remember Snake. That was great. Yeah.
Fun side note, like, that was at the time that like you had to pay for individual text messages and things like that.
Yeah.
So all I'd heard was how expensive it was. And a friend of mine asked to call her mom. This was the nothing after, like nothing until 9 o'clock because you got free nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, it's an emergency. I need to call my mom. I let her use my phone. And instead of calling her mom, she sent a couple texts back and forth. And I panicked. Like I showed up at the house after school that day, bawling my eyes out, thinking that I had ran up this enormous cell phone bill because she sent like 3 text messages and got 4 back. And I was like, I'm going to make us lose everything. Like I was terrified. But yeah, so I saw the change from no technology to like having a computer right here. And but it just missed it to where I was not taught any of that stuff in school.
Sure.
Like,
I get that.
The next, like the people coming a few years behind me, they learned a lot of that stuff in school.
Mm-hmm.
Like the teachers who were like, when are you ever going to have a calculator in your pocket?
Yeah,
Every day. But so it's weird for me, like still trying to, I just signed up to take a social media and marketing class to learn how to do more edits and things like that. The different things that you can do because I'm not a tech savvy person.
So what is your, how do you use social media? I mean, I know you have YouTube and you mentioned you got a podcast that you do as well.
Mm-hmm. So
go ahead.
We have a YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, podcast. We're starting a Twitch.
So, I've been there a bit. Yep.
We've got Liber TV and then Patreon.
Okay.
We've got a Twitter handle, but I don't ever get on Twitter. Like I just don't.
Yeah, I get it.
Instagram is where we share a lot of our class pictures and things like that. It's where we interact with a lot of our sponsors. Okay. So if they have new products coming out, we'll share their stuff. YouTube is the biggest one for us though, because like you don't get the full picture in just a picture.
Sure.
So having the capability to do the live streams and things like that and interact with people and let them get some information like this. Imagine what else we can teach you if this is the stuff we're giving you for free.
Yes. I mean, I sat down and watched basically the whole fighting pistol with that. What did he call it?
The watermark.
The stupid watermark. I forget. He had a much more colorful term for it. I can't remember what it was. And I watched the whole damn thing. And of course I showed up to take the course, because you're not going to get, what are you going to get from a YouTube video, right? I mean, you get knowledge, but you don't get the hands-on training.
You don't get application.
Yeah.
And that's why we're willing to put so much out there, is because like we want that knowledge accessible to everybody. We're still the best at the application.
Absolutely.
So we're still going to have people coming to us to show them how to do that.
And again, that's checking the ego at the door, but knowing you're that damn good and it's okay. You can give it away for free.
Right. If you don't believe in it, why should anybody else? That's the only thing that we're like super egotistical about, is we are the best damn firearms company in the world.
I mean,
firearms training company.
Yeah, and you should believe that, because, I mean, for the courses and the ammo, I mean, I'd probably drop $2,000 for 4 days worth of training. But I mean, I'm a Canadian coming down, but I no qualms at all. I mean, it was worth. I would have paid double that. You know what I mean? Like it absolutely is worth it. So, and damn right, of course you believe that, because you are. And if you didn't, you'd show up and be like, oh yeah, they're like, yeah, guys, we're pretty good, but there's probably better. And
yeah, my mom's gonna hate me for saying this on YouTube or a live stream. She would tell my dad all the time. She was like, "Oh my God, you think you're always right?" And he's like, "Everyone thinks that. Like, you wouldn't say something that you thought was wrong." Like,
right?
So, like,
ask Becky, my wife. Yeah, she'll tell you the same thing about me. I thought it was pretty cool. One other story I heard about how your dad would carry a second gun, for your mom. I had never heard that before. he may have been the first guy I'd ever heard that did that. But because everybody thinks I'm going to carry a backup in case mine fails. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's pretty cool.
So when I was 12, at this point, I'd already taken fighting pistol. I'd already taken the force on force. I'd had a significant number of training classes. When I was 12 years old, he gifted me the Glock 19 that I still have. He got the row-bar grip done to where I could hold it.
Yep.
Little hands at 12. And like we would go out all the time and shoot together. And he told me the 26 that he had on his ankle was for me if something ever happened.
That cute.
Because he usually carried 3 guns.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. He usually carried 3. And he we actually sat down and had a conversation. Like, he will be the one to take care of the issue, but I was supposed to take the gun and make sure that my mom and sister were good. And then my mom also carried. So, and both of us were proficient in it. And he was like, if something happens, like your mom y'all are separated, like you are in charge of you and your sister. And like, it's kind of, I don't realize how spoiled I am. Like, I'm the opposite of sheltered.
Right.
But, which is a great thing. But like, things like that just seemed like, well, duh, why else would you carry it? Like, of course that's why. But it was because I had my dad telling me like all the stuff and only the good stuff.
Yeah. It was cool. I know that's something simple, but I had never thought about, that backup gun. There's a better chance it's for somebody else than, somebody who can be, because how much better is it to have somebody next to you or at your back with a firearm as well?
Right.
And it's so damn practical, right?
Yes.
Everything you do is practical. Well, I said we'd keep it to about an hour. This has been awesome. Let's start with, it's pretty obvious, but how do they find you, Kayla, if somebody wants to sign up for your course and come down and train with you?
So they can go to our website, www.tacticalresponse.com. I got laughed at for putting the www in there, but some websites don't have that now. It's like the HTTPS, and I'm like, no, it's www.tacticalresponse.com. You can go on to YouTube, search James Yeager, and click on his channel. And it has all of the videos. It has all of our social media accounts, everything on there. And then you can always give us a call at 1-731-676-2041.
And you're always there to answer questions. And if you'll call back or email back too. What about email? Is there
email? You can send us an email to info@tacticalresponse.com. Just info@tacticalresponse.com. Sometimes like Gmail has been really weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because we're a firearms company or what, but we don't always get the emails when people send them. So if you don't hear back from us, call. Find a different way to get in touch with us. The calling is the best one because we can definitely get the phone calls. But we always respond to our student emails. So if it's missing out, and I know that there had been some issues lately and that we're getting worked on. But if you don't hear back from us, please give us a call. Like we do want to answer your questions for you.
And one other thing, you said you do is it Toys for Tots or what do you call it? Yeah. When does that happen and how can people support that?
We do Toys for Tots all year long.
Okay.
So you can go to our Amazon wish list. So if you go, and I can actually, like when we get off of here, I will send you a link to that if you want to post it under this video.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we do it year long, and you can order a toy and have it shipped directly to us. And then at a couple weeks before Christmas, we get ages of kids and their genders, and we bag up to where they'll get a big enough Christmas and let their parents come in and pick it up so that they don't know that it's a program. Yep.
That's cool. So, well, I only found out about when I was down, but I'll make sure I order you guys a couple of things and send.
That's actually on the gear list as well, like a toy to donate for Toys to Tots.
Why not? That's So guys, if you're listening, make sure you look into that because how else can you bless somebody, right? And we're tying up, but Hunter just asked a question. Do you guys travel?
Yes, we do. We try to hit each of the corners of the United States. Tennessee covers the Southeast. We have some classes up in Annville, Pennsylvania. We have classes out in or down in Bastrop, Texas, in Raton, New Mexico, Tucson, Arizona, and we recently added Seattle, Washington to our calendar. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we taught I'm sorry, Spokane, not Seattle, Spokane. Spokane to our classes, and then we do some classes in the center of the country in Idaho, Kuna or Kuna. I'm not great at pronouncing it.
It's in Idaho.
So. Yeah, Idaho classes. So yeah, we do travel. We used to teach in Canada, but with y'all's new restrictions, new-ish. When they started coming down with the hammer and banning stuff, the ban hammer, we stopped teaching up there.
Rightfully so. That's why I'm looking for land south of the border, south of our border, Canadian
It's
border.
why we stopped teaching out in California too.
I believe it. And it's a sin because Canada and California could probably use some of that good training, Mm-hmm. Anything else that I didn't touch on, or anything you wanted to share, anything you got coming up? Or
I sign up and take classes. Like, not only is it the best firearms training that you're going to get, the best fighting firearms training that you're going to get, you get to be a part of this thing that we have, this tribe. And we joke that we are the island of misfit toys. My dad, he actually, if you got just a few more minutes, like a little quick story.
I'm no rush. You go ahead.
So we went to Gatlinburg this past Christmas because we knew like it was going to be our last Christmas together. So we went to Gatlinburg, and he sat my mom, and my sister on one side of the room. And if you guys don't know, my sister, she adopted 2 kids. So she has 3 total, and then I have 3. And he pulled everyone to the other side of the room, besides the 3 of us. And he was just like, they were the first ones to start this, because James was not my biological dad. And a lot of people don't know that. Step was a bad word at our house. Like, he was my dad and I am his daughter.
Yes, 100%.
So he wasn't my biological dad. And he said, like, they adopted us into their family.
That's cool.
And that kind of sparked like that acceptance and being loved. I say acceptance. I was a shithead when I was a little girl. Like, I was a butthead. That's why I called him James. But that belonging was something that we wanted to share. And if for nothing else, you just want a kick-ass group of people that you get to call friend, like, take one of our classes here and we make that happen.
Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah.
This was great. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on. Are you okay to hang around the back for just a second? And I'll close up?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll be right back with you here.
Okay.
Guys, where do I go from there? That was just an incredible, incredible episode. I got to thank Kayla for coming on. Hopefully we'll have her back again sometime, because she has incredible stuff to share. So make sure you do the Toys for Tots, guys. And if you're thinking about doing any training, I'll make sure all the links are in there. But just thank you. Thank you for dropping in. What a crazy show. I was awesome. So anyway, guys, always appreciate you dropping in. I know this was an odd time of the day, but thank you for coming by. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.